on the Hill about Biden's decline, and all the Democrats boycotted it because Democrats love to protest and boycott everything. It's silly. They're the most childish grown-ups I've ever seen in my life because they operate off emotion, not logic.
Talk about accountability. I wonder who was held accountable for the disastrous withdrawal out of Afghanistan, where 13 soldiers died and we left thousands of Americans behind underneath Secretary Austin's lead. Did one person get held accountable during that time? I don't know of anybody that got held accountable for Afghanistan withdrawal. But let's talk about that. And let's talk about the turmoil to which my colleagues on the other side of the dais wants to talk about. Let's talk about that turmoil. Underneath Secretary Austin, who was a general, by the way, you had the lowest morale measured in our
All right, so that first point is huge. Remember, they beat up Pete Hegseth because he was a major in the Army Reserves or National Guard. And then we've had defense secretaries who never served at all. But he wasn't an insider, so that's why they're all mad, because he actually goes in and cuts these lucrative contracts out and say, hey, no, that's waste, that's fraud, that's abuse. And he's actually in there leading. Actually, they're having beer with the troops, not the generals. He actually goes down to the lowest enlisted members and talks to them. General Austin, later Secretary Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, was a weak weenie. I don't know what my full screen.
Military history, you had retention,
we'll get to it,
absolutely disastrous. You had recruitments that wasn't even meeting lowered standards that you guys lowered. But let me see the contrast now. We have the highest morale that's been measured in decades in the military. We have recruiting numbers that are exceeding expectations that we've had. We have our enemies that fear us once again, and our allies that love us because they can trust us. But that's not the narrative, Secretary Hegseth, that our Democrat colleagues want to draw. But how short-minded is your memory? It was just a few months ago that you were supporting a commander-in-chief that you guys were covering up for or flat out lying about. Who was in charge? And that was a commander-in-chief.
Exactly. Auto-pay.
Oh, but let's not talk about that. Instead, let's just point fingers at something that fits a narrative. You want to talk about war powers or the fact that during our reposturing in the Middle East against Iran, which would have never taken place if our colleagues on the other side would have held the administration accountable while they were giving billions of dollars back to Iran, and knowing good and well during the briefings that they were actually trying to develop a nuclear weapon, but we turned a blind eye to that, and now the mess that was created by the Biden administration, this administration, or the Trump administration, and the leadership of Secretary Hegseth is simply trying to clean up. But forget about the past. Let's talk about this. Oh, let's talk about reposturing, by the way. And wasn't it Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, that came to us and said that he was fighting the largest naval battle since World War II? Did anybody in this dais authorize that? That was his words, who sat right there where Secretary Hegseth was, and I laughed. And I said, I didn't think the Houthis had a navy, so why are we fighting a naval battle there? And did you guys complain about it? Did you guys say one thing about it? Nope. You just sat there. Because hey, it didn't fit your narrative, but this one does. And then anyone want to start talking about the National Guard and the Marines? Didn't President Eisenhower deploy troops or federalized troops in Arkansas in 1957 and also deploy the 101st Airborne because the governor then refused to protect civil rights and personal property? Yep. What about President Kennedy in 62 and 63 that also did it because Mississippi and Alabama refused to do the same thing? And so since the governor at that time refused to protect citizens and the property, he federalized the National Guard. Oh, let's think about 65 too, because LBJ did the exact same thing. But that's history. But yet it's extremely important to the context of what you guys are claiming to be done here. But that doesn't fit the narrative that you guys want to put out there.
isn't it refreshing? It's so refreshing to have somebody who can actually speak and tell the truth and actually articulate a point. Gone are the days of Mitch McConnell looking like a Muppet and all these old school people that just would never. I remember I used to yell at George W. Bush because he'd make a policy, but then he would never go out and defend it. Like Trump's out there all the time defending his policies and making a case for it. And Bush would always say, "Oh, that's beneath the dignity of the office." Well, that's why you left with a 13% approval rating, and we got smashed. I mean, that and our economy crashing thanks to Fannie and Freddie and the left forcing loans in bad neighborhoods. But that's beside the point. A whole nother issue, a whole nother day. But people like him, that they just, it's refreshing that they can actually articulate their point, and it's refreshing that we have YouTube that can actually put this stuff out there. These little hearings on the Forbes channel actually get more views than CNN does all night. So it gets the message out there. All right, so going with the legacy media dying, absolutely dying. CNN morale is really grim as network faces a corporate split. Apparently, their ratings have sucked so bad that their parent company is now saying, "Hey, we're done. We're going to split it off." Word is that even Anderson Cooper's out looking for a new job. And a lot of them think that they're going to do what Megyn Kelly did and start a very successful YouTube channel and podcast and make millions. But most people are just tired of hearing them because it's just an echo chamber of the same thing. Because their message is no different than ABC, CBS,